Good morning. What we're going to do is we're going to test a Hornby King's class locomotive going through a Peco ST-245 with a big long insel frog. It's a set track curve point. This part is radius 2 and that's radius 3. So what we'll do is we'll do the easy bit first. This is radius 3, boiler first, going round in an anti-clockwise direction. Change direction. Now it's going into a radius 2 here, so that's radius 3 into a radius 2. And you can see I'm not bashing it round. Okay, we'll change direction and we'll do the radius 2. So this is radius 2 into radius 2, and you can see how tight the tender is looking at the back of the locomotive. And that was okay. Bring it back in a clockwise direction. But when you've built track, it's so important you test it before you screw it down and ballast it, because you could be into a world of pain. Anyway, we're going to turn it round and do it with the tender going round in an anti-clockwise direction to begin with. So here we go. Now when you've got a loco that is not symmetrical or has a tender on it, it's so important you test it both ways. And here we go, that's quite easy. Radius 3 is never going to be a problem, it's going straight into a streamlined point all day long. Okay, we'll change direction and do the radius 2. So this is radius 2 into radius 2. Which, yeah, that's pretty good, I think. Change direction. And as you can see, there is a massive great insel frog on that. And you can see that's tight. You can see the front bogey's tight. You can see the tender's tight. However, it runs fine. Now what you need to do next is test it pulling a realistic load, because obviously the lateral forces and the movement backwards and forwards of rolling stock can affect how the locomotive runs. So I'm going to put some carriages on and we'll see how we get on. Okay, well the first thing we're going to do is test what I would call is a nice slow speed, what you may run it at trundling around your model railway. We're on speed step 128 with a speed of 36. Which, as you can see, is nice and slow. Coaches will do this easily, but you can see that the couplings are wound all the way round. And you can see it's not an issue. I'm going to wind the speed up a bit. So what I would suggest is an express speed, because when you've got the coaches rattling around, you've got a different inertia. This is probably the fastest you would run it if you're being sensible. give it a toot, and here we go. And you can see that's not an issue. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put it through the radius 3. And what I would suggest is a fast speed. And here we are. At a nice slow pace. Now I haven't got a front hook on this, but if you've got a front hook on this locomotive, if you have it, or a front NEM coupling, whatever you want to call it, it's important you test it with the loco tender first. And you can see that's a nice slow pace. And what we're going to do now is we're going to test it in the other direction, pulling the same rolling stock. Okay, so here's a radius 3, nice slow pace. It's up a slope as well, we'll give it a toot. And as I say, it's so important to test. You're not just testing the point, you're testing the track around it, because you can get a derailment. Say that where number 3 coach is going through now isn't level, you can get a derailment. And you can hopefully see that this is really quite easy. So I'm going to speed it up. Gauge Master Prodigy 2 is controlling this. Give it a bit of an express pace. And here we're going through the radius 3. Probably the fastest you should run it, unless you want to be scale electric set. Right, we're now going to run it through the radius 2. Radius 2 into radius 2 at an express pace. You may have seen the loco rattled a bit just past the point, but it wasn't a problem. And now we're going to run it at a really slow pace through the radius 2. And as I've said, if you've got a hook on the front, you need to do it all the same with your carriages. It's so important to thoroughly test track, because if you don't, you're going to be in a mess. And test all your locomotives like you've tested these. You might look and think, well, it's time consuming. Yes, you're right, but it's more time consuming ripping up track and starting again, and the cost as well, maybe. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed seeing Richard II, King Richard II, the King's Class locomotive, being tested over this Peco ST-245 set track curve point, which is radius 2 on the inner part of the point and radius 3 on the outer part of the point. Again, thank you.